Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop, and welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at La Marzocco, and they've been making espresso machines at La Marzocco since 1927, so we're coming up on 100 years of great service, great innovation, dependability like nothing you've ever seen before. They are a cornerstone in the industry. They are a household name for a reason. If you go to lamarzocousa.com, you'll see what I mean. They have an incredible array from very technologically advanced espresso machines, lots of automation, and then there's also machines where it's a lot more manual, a lot more stripped down and simple. But no matter what you get, you can be assured that La Marzocco's reputation is infused into the entire machine. That is a seal of quality that is unmatched in specialty coffee. So info@lamarzocousa.com. Someone from their sales team will help you make the right decision about an espresso machine or a piece of espresso equipment, like their Swan grinders and so forth. But you need to just talk to them. I think La Marzocco is a great choice. So now we're also sponsored by Rattleware. Rattleware.com is where you should go to learn about all of their small wares. If you see that label on something and you're shopping for small wares, that is a seal, a guarantee that this has been made with the intention of helping you just focus on what you need to focus on. Don't worry about the small wares. They are there to support you. It's a background character. You are the main character, what your customer is, but you know what I mean. They just want to make small wares that just work at Rattleware. So if you're looking for, whisks and knockboxes and shot glasses and stuff like this, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of different little things you need in the cafe. Rattleware should be one of those brands that you shoot for and look for. So again, check them out, rattleware.com. Now, I am today's episode of Shift Break is something that I want to talk about because I think it's funny. And I try to do a lot more smiling these days. But if I had my way, and I think that when I was podcasting without video, maybe my face, my resting whatever face, was a lot more intense. People have told me I have an intense face, I suppose, over the years, and I am inside this face. Like, I don't see it until people show me pictures. And I had one girl who, a long time ago, I hired her as a manager eventually, but when she came into the cafe as a customer, and this is at a time that I was just like really into my work, I was super into hospitality, no ill will towards nary a soul, right? She thought I hated her. Now, she told me this later on after she was hired, and I thought it was so funny, but also tragic because I'm trapped in this, this furrowed brow. And if I wasn't smiling with the eyes, you could easily, assume that I was just intensely focusing on whatever, Russian novel I was reading at the time. Like I was just having a dark night of the soul constantly. But anyway, it's kind of a thing that has traveled with me. As I said in the copy of our description of this episode, I have and succeeded in, putting a business card in the furrow of my brow and holding it there. Nice party trick, but not good for networking, depending on the job you're wanting to go for. And certainly not good for coffee if I am not paying attention and I'm behind the bar and I'm just really focused on things. My face and the way I look communicates something to the staff. If I'm a leader, if I'm a manager, I've had people tell me I'm not approachable. I have definitely had to learn the hard way that I am in charge of how I show up. And the clarity of my communication, as Kim Scott says in Radical Candor, is determined by the ears of the listener and not the mouth of the speaker. In other words, like our friend Tom Henschel says, I want to be perceived the way I want to be perceived. I want people to see if I have a heart that is just, I'm happy and I want people to know that I'm happy. Now, I want to do something that alleviates at least a little ambiguity that my face might communicate. And this is probably one of the hardest things for any of us to accept, is that what we do behind the bar and what we do during the hours that we represent a brand of coffee or a organization is actually a performance in a lot of ways. That doesn't make it insincere, because there are a lot of performers who love what they're performing and the message that they're sending. And the message we send and the content and the values we represent in the business are first experienced in relationship to the people that represent those things. So if I walk into a coffee shop and everybody looks like me, it can look not the most welcoming. And that's a me problem. And I have worked to alleviate it by smiling more, by allowing my face to communicate what my heart feels, and fixing my face basically. And have I been offended by such things before? Yeah, of course. Have I been offended and also known that it was right? Yes. Also, yes. So here's the thing. There is a limited amount that I can do for what I look like. Some people just look happy. I've got a friend, he is as Irish as Irish can be. And he has, he is constantly smiling, even when he's sad. And maybe that's the reverse issue that I have. Maybe, he wants to communicate that he's sad, but he can't. Really good friend of mine. And, I wish a little bit of that would rub off on me when I'm, pondering the orb behind the bar between rushes. I don't want to look like I'm just about to commit some heinous crime. But this is just the introspective, Chris, that I tend to be that way. And, when you're being that way, maybe your face doesn't really communicate joy. There's more like despondency and being vexed and all these other things. However, I've got to remember where I am and why I'm there, who I'm there to serve. And I'm not there to serve myself. I'm not there to express myself and let people, this is not the me show. This is not the Chris show. And even if you happen to be the barista that everybody is really like, we love this barista, right? It's still, even if people are saying that, it's still not about you. So you have to make sure that the way you're presenting is in alignment with the values of the business that you are representing. And that's a huge part of hospitality that we overlook sometimes in coffee. Coffee is a little bit more casual. I'm not really a big fan of the idea that fine dining is this penultimate thing that we have to ascribe to all this value to. It has value. It's limited and imperfect, just like anything else. Just look at the news cycle right now with Noma chef Rene Redzepi and the allegations and all this other stuff. It is as imperfect, maybe even more so, I don't know, than coffee, at least on equal playing fields. However, it is not outside the realm of reason to expect people who are representing the brand in their behaviors and their disposition to represent it in a way that's clear. And so as a manager and a leader, you have power, you have authority. It creates an imbalance and a gap between you and other people. It's especially important for you to get that under control. And maybe you need to fix your face. Maybe you need to be more approachable and actually work on it. And don't, if you sincerely just kind of meditate on the idea of being approachable, that is good. But it doesn't matter if you're not going to make physical changes that communicate more approachability. That's what matters. Baristas, the same thing applies. And it's a part of being a professional in not taking things very personally. Now, if you're a manager and you have baristas that are like this and do need to fix their face, or they need to, there's something that's obviously happening that needs to be addressed, you have to be candid. And you do have to make sure that they understand you're on their side. It's good to have already built up a trust credit with people as the one that they know is on their side, advocating for them at every turn. Yeah, you need to coach here and there, of course, but if you approach these conversations that have a potential to be a little bit more contentious, without that backdrop, it's going to be a lot harder. But it does need to be addressed. When we tell people that we want them to present themselves in an open and enthusiastic and joyful way to people, we are telling them, hey, do what you need to do as a grown person. Do what you need to do personally in your heart and mind to come to work, to do these reasonable expectations of people who represent this brand here in this cafe. Now, if you have like an inability to do that, and like you just find it untenable to do that, or to even work on it, or consider working on it, then this might not be the right place for you to be. Because that whole trope of the sullen barista or the frazzled and crazy manager whose eye is twitching and they're just not approachable, they're on like their last leg. This is an optics issue that actually matters, because people's assumption about us and the worth of what we're selling, the future of our business, and the longevity of our careers and career opportunities that we get in the future does depend on how we present ourselves in the physical world. Visually, we need to be in charge of what people are perceiving about us. And I just go back to that phrase that Tom Henschel talks about in The Look and Sound of Leadership: to be perceived in the workplace the way we want to be perceived. It's such a great phrase. And, I am so imperfect at this still. You can see in the slideshow, a picture of me. I think it was last year or the year before. I was at a client's place. I was helping behind the bar, and I got into a bout of concentration. I'll say concentration. And you tell me whether or not I look like somebody who is ready to serve with a smile and, giving some good hospitality to. Nah, not really. So we're all works in progress here. I'm not saying you should beat yourself up or, do face yoga or something, but it's the intention. It's the idea that we want to work at these things. And there's a limited amount that we can do, but that we take it on as a serious part of the bigger picture of what we're doing to create these moments, these experiences, to add more value to the coffee we're serving, and more success to the business that we run. That's what I'm asking. And that's what I'm saying is part of the bigger picture of running a great coffee shop. So thanks for listening. I hope that it was helpful in some ways. And you know what? Write me. If you could write me and say, hey, Chris, I always kind of thought you looked angry, or hey, Chris, I also happen to have that kind of a problem, and here's what I've done. I'd love to hear it. So tell me what you think. And as always, I hope that you have a great day. We'll talk to you next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.